Hey there, it's Wayfair here, where delivery and setup are as easy as a few taps on your phone. You're relaxing in an old hammock, scrolling Wayfair's app, when you spot it, a brand new patio set. Next thing you know, Wayfair delivers it right to your patio and sets it up. Oh, you need a new grill too? All right, Wayfair's got you covered. With Wayfair's Room of Choice delivery and fast expert setup on qualifying orders, life gets a little easier. Visit wayfair.com or the Wayfair app.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
This is Peter.
And this is Tom.
And you're listening to History Teachers Talking Podcasts. All right, this is Peter Zablocki and Thomas Reska, and welcome back to our podcast. I'm really excited for it, considering the fact that it's late. We've had a long day, and I'm like super amped for this, Tom.
Well, it's been a long day. You're tired, and you're going to talk about this spooky stuff today. You're going to have nightmares, Pete. It's not going to go well for you.
Actually, you know what? I am inclined to having those sometimes. So yeah,
that's not good. You're going to wake up in those night terrors.
And I'm actually eating cookies right now. My son baked cookies with little ghosts on them. So like, go figure. Everything's set. This is our first October episode. Not ever, obviously, but of this October. So, Tom, what are we talking about today?
Well, since we're talking about, I guess, kind of a Halloween, October, right, the spookiness, we might as well go from the root of the source. So today we're going to talk about the history behind the inspiration to Dracula, the one person known as Vlad the Impaler.
I wonder why he got that name.
Well, we're going to be talking about that because this guy, if you do some deep dives into Vlad the Impaler, it's like, wow, and how much people like him too. It's like, well, why were people like nowadays, not then, but like now, he's like, he's a folk hero.
Yeah. And a lot of the like crazy stories about him came out while he was still alive. Like this was just.
Yeah. And they're not even crazy. They're like true. Like from everything, like, no, this is what he did. Like,
yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. But I was looking at like historians trying to figure out if it was true, but this is like one of the reasons was there was obviously books that came out during his time saying like, this guy's crazy. Look what he did. But there was books that came out during his time that were like, this guy's a hero. Look what he did. And it talks about the same thing. So they're like, well, if someone glorifies him and vilifies him for the same events, that probably adds to the credibility of that event. Not to mention the fact that historians now commonly believe that what we are going to talk about today is indeed, I mean, it is. It's history. It's truth. This is what this guy did. And you know, Vlad the Impaler, which Vlad the Third, by the way, of Wallachia. I can't pronounce it.
Wallachia, you're right. Wallachia.
Just, you know, we're going to get into all that, and I think we'll talk about a little bit about Dracula wine as well. I mean, we like Dracula.
And we'll talk about where that name comes from, too, because it means something, which we'll get to.
It does. But before we get going about Vlad the Third, you know, born in 1431, when you think, how about this, Tom? When you think of Dracula, first thing that pops in your head, first Dracula you think of, go.
I still see that whole like what's that, Nefernyatu? You ever see that thing?
Like old school thing, that scary looking thing?
Yeah. I always see that one. They always show that one with the scary fingers and like that scary thing. Then like the universal Dracula, I guess. I do not see sparkling vampires in daylights in Seattle. That's not really my thing when it comes to vampires. But and I guess I remember we're childs of the 80s, so obviously the Lost Boys, right? I think they're remaking that too, I saw.
I heard that, yeah. You know, when I think of Dracula, I actually think of a movie that not a lot of people remember, but I think it's a cult classic, and it's Monster Squad.
I know of that movie. I've seen it. I've definitely seen it.
Yeah. Oh, it's like Goonies with monsters.
He's bad in it, Dracula, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's like all your quintessential like monsters, and basically like think of Goonies battling monsters. If anyone hasn't seen this movie, it's called Monster Squad. Pretty sure it's on Amazon Prime. Watch it because it's good. Anyway,
okay.
So let's do this.
Plug.
There's well, not for me. What Amazon? Like if they need a plug, right?
Yeah.
So Vlad the Third was born in 1431 in Transylvania. It is also known as the region of Wallachia, and it is a mountainous region in modern-day Romania, just so we're on the same page. His father was Vlad II, and he was the ruler of Wallachia, which is kind of located, it's like this area that's located south of Transylvania. So that, you know, just kind of situation context to this, that Transylvania, or modern-day Romania, was situated between the Christian Empire, think of like Europe, basically, and the Muslim lands of the Ottoman Empire. And Transylvania and Wallachia, being right in the dead center, were frequently the scene of like bloody battles between the Ottoman forces that were trying to push westward into Europe and back and forth. Then you have Christian crusaders and crusades that are like fighting
Well, this is
against the Ottoman
This is
Empire.
in the 1400s too. There's just wars and battles and
Literally
any day
through
could be your
this time.
last. You could just be
Yeah,
killed.
exactly. And invaders, whether it's Christian crusades, Christian crusaders, or whether you have the Ottomans, are basically invading and marching eastward or westward through, towards like the Holy Land. And the Crusaders, at least for the Crusaders, they're marching eastward. They're marching through Transylvania, and that's kind of what Vlad is born into, right? So let's
Yeah,
kind of
that's how he kind of gets his name. Yeah, well, first of all, like his father was Vlad the Second Dracul. That was his father's name. So he takes the name Dracula, which literally means son of Dracul. And he did this when he was initiated into this secret order of knights known as the Order of the Dragon. So that's where they get that name from. So that's where Dracula comes from. Actually, just means the son of Dracul, and that was his father's name. And like you said before, he becomes kind of this folk hero in this region because of his efforts against these Ottoman encroachments. The people in that area, in Transylvania, in
Romania, I guess,
in Romania,
Wallachia.
Wallachia, they don't like the Ottomans come in all the time. So the Ottomans are the ones saying this guy's brutal, and his tactics were brutal anyway you look at it. But he kind of realized he kind of like had to do this because it was the only way he would really like stand up to the Ottomans. So he was surrounded by enemies, right? The Hungarians, the Ottomans, right? His younger brother, actually, right? Other nobility. So he employed this like really crucial, really cruel, extreme measures to instill fear in those who were like against him, who opposed him. And that's where he earned his nickname, because his most common that he did was he impaled his enemies on stakes. Yep. That's just like basically what he did for this to happen. And it's a brutal way to die. He would kill thousands of people this way.
And we're going to get into some of the specifics of how he impaled them. I mean, this was not like nice. This was pretty intense.
And basically, Bram Stoker is the one that takes that name and turns it with the whole vampire myth. I'm not trying to get ahead of ourselves, but there's no evidence, and they do not believe that Vlad the Impaler ever drank blood. It's something he didn't. He killed people. They're not saying he was a nice guy, but he wasn't drinking blood. It just wasn't something that.
And actually, the castle that's often
castle's there,
yeah. But if you read into it, the castle that's in Transylvania, that's often seen as like Vlad's castle and the one that's an inspiration for Dracula, he actually never was in. He was in a different castle, which I thought that was really interesting. So Dracula, the reason why Stoker picked the name Dracula for his novel is because after Vlad, right, the Impaler, did all the terrible things he did in history, his name became synonymous. Dracul became synonymous with the word devil. So prior to this, it wasn't. Prior to this, it actually Order of the Dragon. It came from a dragon. And then after him, historically in Romanian language, Drac referred to a creature, the devil. So that is why the author of Dracula kind of became attracted to the word, because of the fact that it meant devil. But the only reason it meant devil is because of what this guy did, right? So he has an interesting childhood, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have the Order of the Dragon. His father, Vlad II, is in this Order of the Dragon. Basically, their biggest task of this order is to defeat the Turks or the Ottoman Empire, basically, because that's one and the same in this case. So Vlad II is called to this diplomatic meeting in 1440, I think 42.
42, yeah.
Yep, with this Ottoman Sultan, right? And he brings his
Murad II, right? Is that what you found? Murad II.
Yep, Murad II. And he brings his two sons with him, right? Vlad the Third or Radu. So Vlad the Third is obviously who becomes Dracula. The meeting was actually a trap, right? So Vlad II goes to suppose this diplomatic meeting to this Ottoman Sultan, and he's supposed to like prove his allegiance. But really, the three of them are arrested and held hostage. And the father, Vlad II, is released. But the only reason why he's released is under the condition if he leaves his sons behind. So he's like, all right, peace, as messed up as that is. And he like leaves Vlad the Third, or the Vlad the Impaler, and the other son behind in captivity, while he basically goes back to Transylvania and continues this ongoing war with the Turks and the Ottoman Empire. So while he does this, knowing that he's going against the Turks and the Ottoman Empire, he's pretty much sure like that his kids are dead. Like he's like, yeah, they're died because I'm going against this guy. But that's not really the case, obviously. Under the Ottomans, Vlad, the Impaler, again, he's a young kid now, and his younger brother are tutored, though. They're not really thrown in a dungeon. They're tutored
Yeah,
in
and like the
science.
older brother, the one brother Radu, he kind of did well there, but
Yep, he liked
Vlad
it.
didn't.
He actually
Yeah.
became like he turned
Well,
towards the
yeah,
Ottomans.
yeah. He became very towards the album. That's why him and his brother didn't get along later on because he's always
Nope.
worried his brother was going to try to like take over, take his reign and stuff like that.
Yep. So Vlad became a skilled horseman, warrior. I mean, they really taught him all these kinds of
They also
professors
beat
taught him.
him a lot too,
They
Vlad,
did.
right?
That is true. Yeah, that is true.
And they say that's probably where he learned a lot of his interrogation tactics because a lot of it was probably done to him, or he saw it happening a lot from the Ottomans.
Yeah. So the major difference in his captivity, these years of captivity as a child under the Ottomans, is that Vlad, he's angry by this. Meanwhile, his brother it basically says, all right, this is not bad. And he goes over to the Ottoman side. So his brother almost like betrays him. And eventually Vlad escapes, right? I mean, that's at least what I found. Is that what you found?
Yeah, he escaped. He might have been helped a little bit, but he
Yeah.
escaped.
So he escapes, but by the time he escapes, his father, Vlad II, is actually ousted as the ruler of his region of Wallachia. And he is replaced by some other guy. Vlad escape kind of starts this. He embarks on this campaign to like regain his father's seat as the new ruler, you know. But first he has to get rid of the ruler that took over, who's Vladislav II. I mean, there's so many names here when I was reading this. At first, it doesn't really work out until finally he wins his father's seat and he becomes the ruler of Wallachia, right? But it's very short lived because after like 2 months, the other guy returns and like kicks him out. And then he disappears for a little bit. Like he regains his father's throne for a couple months. He then is thrown out and he disappears, I say a little bit. He disappears from like 1448 to 1456 and not much is known during that time. What we do know for a fact is that he definitely gave up any allegiance whatsoever officially to the Ottoman Empire and kind of leaned towards the Hungarian side because the Hungarians were fighting the Ottomans at this time. And with the support of the King of Hungary, he once again tries to regain his family's throne, right? So that's what we have. What I found is that he manages to do that in 1456. And one of the first orders of business in his new role is to basically stop paying any tribute to the Ottoman Sultan. He's like, forget it. Even though Wallachia or Transylvania is this little area that's closer to the Ottoman Empire than the Christian Empire, so it's almost like paying protection. They had to pay the Ottoman Empire. First thing he does is basically like, no, we're not paying the Ottoman Sultan. Forget you. And that is where we start really the story of Vlad the Impaler. Well, because one, I mean, he
takes power and he takes it
power.
brutally.
Yep.
And what he basically does is he has everyone who was against him or could be against him in some way, he has them killed.
But how though? He invites them over. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Like he actually invites them over.
Well, it's again, he's doing what was done to him. He sees that it works.
Yep. So he invites these people to these banquets, and he's like, "All right, we got this." And then, as he invites these people over, then he literally orders them stabbed and impaled. Like he impales them on these spikes that he puts out in front of his castle.
Yeah, like, because that was like basically a way of terrorizing people and scaring them any potential invaders away. Like, this is what's going to happen to you if you come here. This is going to happen to you if you don't follow my rules. And like, whether you agree with it or not, like fear is a powerful weapon. It's probably not the best one to use, but you can control people if you can make them fear you. That's just a fact, right? Yeah. Like they might. I'm not saying they're not going to rise up and do everything, but if people will fear, they will.
I mean,
fear can control. There's no doubt about that.
Should we? I mean, I guess we could get specific. What is impaling, guys? I mean, impaling is basically a form of torture and death, and this might be graphic. So if you guys are not into graphic, you might want to fast forward this part. It's where you like a wood or a metal pole is inserted through like the body's either front to back or vertically, but really through like the rectum of a vagina, right?
And slowly,
and it literally exits up through like the victim's neck, shoulders, or mouth.
Just
like,
gravity, just slowly through gravity.
Yep, it's crazy.
It's slow. It's a slow, torturous way. And he's known as the Impaler I saw a lot of things like to call him that he wasn't like a one-trick pony, whatever you want to call it, because he used to blind people, he would scalp people, burn, boil, disembowel,
Did you also read
disarm.
the whole like?
So
Oh,
he
dude,
did
that's
everything.
disgusting, disgusting. Yeah.
They did everything.
But also, when you look at the impaling thing, they said that the pole, oftentimes, what he liked to do, kind of go along with what he's saying, like this torturous craziness, he would have the pole be rounded, not sharp. So it would actually
Yes,
avoid damaging any internal organs and like prolong the suffering of the victim. So that like they would
not going to
insert
pierce
this to the
anything.
victim. Yep. And then like they would raise it vertically and display the victim's like torment. And it took hours, even sometimes days, for the impaled person to slowly die as he was sliding down. I mean, this was like crazy. Basically, anytime anyone went against him in any way, shape, or form, that was his go-to. These diplomatic envoys were sent by the Ottomans to meet with Vlad in 1459. Did you see this one? And
Which one was this?
they refused their hats, the hats based on religious custom.
No, into that one. Oh this happened after. Well, to give a context, so there was like a battle, right, in like whatever it was, 1462 or whatever, and he actually lost the battle. He's retreating, but they already captured like 20,000 Ottomans. So he just said, "All right, impale them all on wooden stakes and leave them outside the city." So then, when the Sultan comes later on, he came across the field and he just saw literally 20,000 soldiers all being picked apart by crows. He was like so horrified and disgusted. He just retreated and went back to Constantinople. He's like, forget it. And that's what Vlad wanted. Like, they're like, it's just not worth it. The mess, it's just not worth it. So this one, then he meets a group of the envoys who refuse to remove their turbans.
Yeah.
And go ahead, what happened?
Yeah, so basically they refused to remove their turbans, and they're saying that they're citing like religious custom. And he goes, I commend you on your religious devotion. And he actually orders for their turbans to be nailed to the diplomats' skulls, 3 nails each.
Yeah.
These people are alive with like nails in their brains, basically.
So they could never take them off.
You don't want to take these off?
You want to take it off? Sounds good. You never will take it off. I'm going to hammer it into your skull. Like, think about that. Like, that is brutal. That's brutal.
But the thing is, he's getting like kind of good publicity for this. Like Vlad's victories over like the invading Ottomans, right? Especially through like little, Wallachia and Transylvania. Like the rest of Europe is like, wow, like this guy's standing up to the Ottomans, right? They were like, even the Pope was apparently impressed by this. But obviously, then news started really kind of coming out. There's also tales, and again, it's not proven that he would dip his bread in blood of his victims.
I saw that, but there's a lot of people that said that never happened.
Yeah, that never happened.
Before. He probably didn't. But he didn't seem to be like he didn't. Once you were dead, that's what he wanted. He wanted some sort of way that was going to scare others and intimidate others. Like he wanted that death to, in a way, like mean something, like to benefit him. Yep. He wanted that death basically to benefit him in some way.
It's estimated that he killed about 80,000 people through like various means. Kind of going back to what you said before, it wasn't all impaled, but about 20,000 people were impaled and put on display right outside his city.
Yeah, that's what you do. As you would like ride into the city, you would see this. And he also kept people like in check with fear, like I said before, by doing things like this. There was this story that there was this golden chalice in the city. Did you see this one? Like a golden cup. See this one. And it was, this was like a very poor part of the city. And he left this golden cup there, and it would always be, it was by a fountain, so you'd use it to drink water. And he said, anyone can drink from this. Doesn't matter where your birthplace is, what your nobility rank is, you can drink from this. The only condition is that it never leaves, the cup itself never leaves the city. Now, this is a poor area, and this is this golden cup. You can see pictures of it online, and no one ever stole it because they knew what was going to happen. If someone took it, if it wasn't there, they were all probably be impaled. So it really just showed he did that not to be nice. He did it more to show like, listen, I know no one's going to take this because they know what's going to happen if they do. So he's showing his power over people by doing that.
That's crazy, dude. There's like a mother and a baby, and he tried to, like, the way he impaled the mother and the baby is that he tried to do it all in the same time. And like he would impale the baby and the mother. And like there's one particular account where the baby still attempted to drink from the mother's breast while they were both impaled.
I know he did kill women and children. He had no problem with that.
No, he didn't have a problem with that, no.
Especially if they were Ottomans. Yeah, he had no problem with that. It was just something that he basically did. But he was actually captured again. I'm sure you saw this, right?
Yep.
So he gets captured. He basically goes with this guy, Cornwallis, and he's one of the an ally in the past. And the Pope sends him on a crusade. They don't win. more or less. So he's running out of money. So he goes to this king to get more money to seek an alliance. And the king just throws him in jail for 12 years.
Yep.
Basically because, and puts his brother Radu in power, and he becomes kind of an Ottoman puppet and stuff like that.
Yep.
And, yes, and while he's there, he basically, he's in prison, but he's not imprisoned.
I heard he got married or something during this time.
Yeah,
right?
He was basically having affairs with all of the noblemen's wives while he was there, and he eventually gets married. So he
also converts to Catholic. Yeah, becomes a Catholic.
Yeah, he's enjoying his time there. And then when his brother dies in 1475, there's a lot of pressure on Cornwallis to let the Vlad out. They want him to reclaim his throne, and all the Hungarians, particularly, are the ones forcing this. And he does take it back in 1476, but then, he dies shortly after that. He gets attacked and killed while on again going off to war.
There's so many stories out, but we also have to mention that the reason why there is so many stories because this is the time where you have the invention of the printing press. It's almost like
people are writing it down. People are talking about him. That's why he becomes a folk hero because the people in that area love him, and the people right outside the area hate him. So he's a very galvanizing individual.
They said that his stories about him were some of the first mass written, produced story books, and they were some of the first bestsellers, specifically in Europe. And this guy's still alive when this is happening. People are like, all right. Because it was an invention of the movable type printing. So they said it was one of the first bestsellers in Europe was stories about Vlad, which is crazy. And also to enhance the sales, they would publish these books with these elaborate drawings and stuff that depicted horrific scenes to try to showcase what he was doing. They said that, do you see the one with the cauldron? He had this big copper cauldron that was built, and he would put a lid made of wood with holes, right? And then he would put people in the cauldron and put their heads in the holes and then fasten them there. Then he filled it with hot water and set the fire under it to let people literally cry their eyes out until they were boiled to death.
The Ottomans would do something like that too, with a bull. Do you ever see that?
No.
It was an iron or metal bowl, and they would put you inside. It might have been the Ottomans, might have been something, and then you would be boiled alive inside the bowl, and they would know you were dead when the steam started coming out of the bull's nostrils.
Damn.
Because that means it was, you were being cooked inside of it.
It's crazy. There's also another story that came out in 1499 where he actually had a woman impaled, and then he cut off her breasts and stuck the baby headfirst inside of her chest by cracking her ribs. And that way, when the impaling was going through, it would impale her and the baby together.
I did hear that one, but this one time it's yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But again, he's doing all this so that people see how brutal it is if you oppose him in some way. That it becomes almost it's not worth going against him, because if by some chance we get captured, if by some chance we lose, look what's going to happen. But it also made people hate him, and that's what leads to his undoing, because they kind of ambush him and they kill him, and they never found his body. What they believe has happened is that they took his body and just basically dismembered it. And then they're saying that their rumor is that it was given to the Sultan, right, the Ottoman leader, and then he kind of just took the body parts and just handed them out to members of his court as a souvenir, here, because he was such a well-known figure, like you were saying before, Pete. So now you have this is a chunk of Vlad the Impaler.
Nuts.
So.
That, by today's standards, I mean, I don't think there's any dispute among historians, but today's standards, Vlad would most definitely be trialed for genocide and war crimes.
Yes, come on, that's not even good.
I don't think that's really.
Why would we, by today's standards, by any standard? Yeah.
Well, yeah, but back then they didn't. I mean, think about it. This guy lives in this tiny little area of this small country in comparison to this humongous Ottoman Empire, and his brutality is actually stopping the Ottoman Empire from crossing through his land. You know what I mean? In a sense, he's successful. It's just, this is researching this. I was like, this is
that's
nuts.
Why he's doing it. That's why he's doing it, is because it's working.
Yeah, it's just nuts. I can't. I mean, it's almost like, all right, I could see why his name Dracul eventually in Romanian became synonymous with the word devil, and it changed the meaning of the word from dragon to devil. But I mean, like I said, we don't really know how the dude died. I mean, there's really no particular specific evidence.
That's why the vampire. He's a vampire. He's still there.
Right.
Well, no, that's based. I guess we can get. You want to get into that? Like talk
Yeah.
about that with the whole
What do you got?
Stoker. Well, I just the idea that Stoker was in 1890s, right? He
Yep.
writes he writes the book, and he really didn't do any real. How do I say this?
He never actually even went to Transylvania. There
No,
was
he
no
never
real
went
research
there.
per se.
Yeah, he never he didn't do any research. He never really like went that much into anything about Dracula, anything about him. It was more of he read a few accounts. He didn't know much about Vlad the Impaler, but he just knew a little bit about like Attila the Hun and stuff like that. And like, oh, this other guy's kind of like that. So I kind of just he just knew that Vlad was a wicked man. That's really it. From some German stories that he read, that's all he really talked about.
Yeah, there's nothing really specific.
Just kind of took the name. It's really, the book itself doesn't contain any references whatsoever to the historical figure of actually Vlad the Impaler. The name just kind of like, he just took the name. He borrowed the name basically.
Crazy. It
becomes what it becomes,
Yeah. I started reading like potential inspirations for Stoker's Dracula. One dealt with like food because apparently it was a nightmare. He had a nightmare because of he ate some like crab for dinner, and he spoke about this later. And he said like he woke up in the middle of the night through his nightmare, and that kind of gave him the idea. He woke up and wrote these notes, and like that is the beginning of Dracula. And then the other thing is he also started writing this at the time where Jack the Ripper started making headlines. So they said that might have potentially inspired him. Also, we know for a fact he was given a book about Wallachian history, which is what he was reading at the time of him coming up with this story. Again, I think he really just, from what I read, he just liked the name.
That's really what it was. Yeah, the name, and he knew it was of Vlad the Impaler, that he was a bad person. Why not? He's just one of his personal histories, so he just kind of took from there. But it wasn't supposed to be really based on him in any way, shape, or form. Like he said, it's just kind of like the name.
Crazy. Do you know that originally Dracula, the novel, was supposed to be called The Dead Undead, and eventually was shortened to just The Undead. And until the very last moment, it was just The Undead. And then they're like, he just decided, let me just change it to Dracula.
Yeah, the title character, and it kind of just took off from there.
The book itself is in like the public domain. You could literally get it.
Well, because it was written so long ago, right?
Yeah, and no one renewed it. So
that's weird. That's happened with like a lot of those things. Like, it's Dracula.
Dracula. All right. So with regards to this, I think we should also, before we close up this, even though he was like super vicious, right? His campaigns against the Ottomans actually protected Wallachia and Europe.
Well, a lot of them, like I said, he's a hero
from the
to
Ottomans.
some. And,
he's a military leader as a hero.
They still talk to him. They say no, he's a hero because he protected them from these Ottoman invasions. So he's very well respected in parts of the world. Other parts of the world, he's not. Like most of the world, he's not.
Yeah, of course, and by today's standards, and any standards, as you said. But at the time, it was like I mean, if not, the Ottomans were coming through his area and going to Europe. So as far as Europe was concerned, they're like, all right, that's cool. So, I mean, I don't, do you have anything else that might be like?
Well, I mean, there's like, I guess we can talk about a few interesting, I know we're talking about for some stories, but one thing that he did hate, he apparently, he hated poverty. He just thought it was like disgusting. So he did find a way to fix poverty. So what he did was, and it kind of fit into what he did. He came up with
not Wallachia. It was
Wallachia. Yeah, I'm thinking.
Come on.
I don't know what I'm thinking. Wallachia.
I'm thinking.
He came
I'm
up
tired.
with a solution for this. Basically, what he did was he took a lot of the vagabonds and all the cripples and the poor in his country, and he invited them all to this massive grand feast, kind of like what he does. And while they were eating and drinking to the night, they were praising him. They were singing songs. Oh, thank you, Vlad, stuff like that. It was in this giant hall. He just locked the doors of the hall and set it on fire. And apparently he walked his advice, like he's like, the problem's fixed, and just walked away. So again, it's showing his brutality, but that's what he thought. He thought killing someone was nothing to him. It was just a way, it was an ends to a means. He was like, all right, these people are being a problem. They're not listening, or in this case, they're just being like drain on our society in some way. Like they're not, in his mind, they're being a drain. They're not producing enough to help justify it. Just get rid of them. This is what we're going to do. Come here, have a feast, yay. And then in his own mind, he's being nice because at least they went out with a full stomach, That was his like mindset.
Well, today we see Dracula. Actually, Dracula has appeared in more than 200 films.
We
So
could do
quite
something
a
just on Dracula too, I guess, in the
seriously
future, right?
quite a
Just like
cinematic
the
career,
vampire myth, right? Because aren't
right?
there people out there that think they're vampires?
Yeah. That's a thing.
That's the whole thing,
Um,
right?
the most
I know
famous.
they're gonna come after us now. That's why I said that. But
Oh man, see what you started. The most famous
it's
portrayal of
okay.
Dracula apparently is Christopher Lee, who played him 11 times. I
Oh,
didn't know
is
that.
that the no Christopher Lee?
Yeah, like
Which
isn't
one
that
was
Star
he?
Wars? Isn't that the Star Wars guy? He wasn't he like Count Dooku or something? Maybe
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
I should know
I was
this.
thinking it was what was that guy who's like the German, not the German guy, but the guy who did all like the
The other guy that
Universal
did him in like
Dracula.
30s and stuff. Yeah, I know what you're
Yeah,
talking about. Well, the
Volsi.
first depiction is the movie you said was the
Yeah,
Nas.
yeah, but he's kind of
Yeah,
like this real like decrepit thing.
yeah, in 1922 that came out.
The
That was
'30s one was when they made him Dracula, like handsome and like a Casanova type of thing, like seducing you with his
hmm,
hypnotic ways and stuff like that. And then it becomes all different. Really, in what was that movie that really made the vampires like sex objects was Interview with a Vampire, right?
yes,
With that
yep,
Brad
yep,
Pitt
yep,
and stuff, Tom Cruise.
yep, yep.
That kind of changed it.
Also,
And then obviously you get the whole Twilight craziness.
but if you read Dracula, right? I don't know if last time we read it, but um,
No.
so Dracula is described in the original book having a really heavy mustache. Um,
I'm just thinking
yeah,
of those. I want to
like
suck your
imagine
blood
all
and
these
look at my
guys with
mustache.
yeah, it was like a
Well, it
heavy
makes sense.
mustache.
Well, it makes sense in that eighth piece. If you look at pictures of like Vlad, doesn't he have a mustache?
Yeah, he does.
Like he had that mustache, and this isn't like even though he was not based on him, but somewhat is. But if you look at like the 1800s, like a lot of men had mustaches, so it makes sense. You know,
So they said that
mustaches,
the
beards.
closest, yeah. So it was a mustache over like a cruel-looking mouth with like sharp teeth. But the closest the films ever got to that rendition of it or example of it was Gary Oldman iteration, right? Because they
Yeah,
basically they this is interesting too for our podcast.
that
They
was
made
Bram
him
Stoker's Dracula, right? Yeah,
exactly, yeah, Bram Stoker's Dracula, like in 1990-91. But they actually made him look particularly like Vlad the Impaler. Um, and not necessarily like your typical Dracula. So they used the real thing, although we really don't know if the real thing has any connection to it, as
yeah.
the
Doesn't seem to, other
doesn't
than
seem
like you
to
said,
us,
the
right?
name and the
Inspiration.
brutality, I guess, right?
All right, I guess right.
Because they're
And
both brutal
that's
things.
usually the case with novels. It was not an instant success at first, and now when you say Dracula, everyone knows who we're talking
Oh
about.
yeah,
But now
everyone
they'll
knows exactly
know
what it is.
that there is Vlad the Impaler behind that story somewhere. Anyway, Tommy, I think this is a good way to finish this one.
Yeah, I mean it's our little like true
Intro.
history intro or whatever to our spooky Halloween month, I guess, right?
That's right. That's right.
We'll try to
That's what
do
we
some
call it.
other ones. I guess we'll try to have a theme this month, and we're probably not going to stick to this theme.
Yeah, we're not gonna
But
stick to
let's be
that.
honest.
Maybe we'll
But
have
who
a
knows? Maybe we'll
Yeah.
have something else. We had some ideas. We had
We
some
do.
ideas.
We do. So for everyone that tuned in once more, thank you so much. If you need to contact us, please feel free to do so at historyteacherstalkingpodcast.com. You could also find us throughout social media. So please feel free to shoot us an email if you guys, have questions or comments. And until next week, thank you so much. Take care, guys.
Stay safe, everybody.
I hope everyone enjoyed our podcast. And if you would like to email us, you can do so at historyteacherspodcast@gmail.com.